I am going to start this. The thing is, I still haven't figured out the simulcast thing, how it works. Like, I don't see that. I don't see the broadcast in the restream thing, but I got a message from YouTube telling me that I am live, I think. I don't know. So I hope this thing is actually working. And um, yeah, I think I am live. Well, so and um, I don't know. I'm still checking the screen for the restream thing, and the the bit rate is like really really small. I think so. I don't know, but the FPS, I don't know. I hope this works. I might need to find another um, uh, platform or I don't know what's called a system, simulcast thing, or um, maybe have any suggestions or what I can use to be able to broadcast at the same time on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter with Periscope. Um, Please let me know because I'm not very good at social media stuff. Anyway, so I'm gonna do this, and I hope that this works. Um, Today I want to talk about LFOs. Um, I really like LFOs, and let me write something here. So, what is an LFO? LFO stands for low frequency oscillator. I think that's the correct spelling of all those words. And this comes from the analog world, the analog synth world, where everything was controlled by voltage. It was just voltage coming in and getting out to the speaker, and that's how sounds were made. And if an oscillator basically made the voltage oscillate in its intensity, and it produced sounds using oscillating the voltage. The range of human hearing is between 20 hertz and 22 kilohertz, which is 22,000 hertz. This means 20 hertz means that a oscillator would oscillate or change the intensity of voltage 20 times in 1 second. And 22 kilohertz, which is super super high pitch, would mean that an oscillator would change the voltage intensity 22,000 times in 1 second, and that's what makes it sound like a higher pitch. The number of changes in 1 second. Now, a low frequency oscillator, it oscillates lower than 20 hertz, so we can also we don't hear just one pitch. We can hear like pulsating things, or you can see it in an oscilloscope as the voltage changing in intensity, but it's super slow. I want to demonstrate this using a Rhythmaker kick, and Rosetta, or Rosetta, I don't know, however you want to pronounce it. I guess it's good. So I'm going to play this, and as you can see, I have like kicks and all 16 steps in Rosetta. So let's see how. Oh, but tempo is 900 BPM, and let's listen to that. I have a filter to that. That is Rhythmaker kick, and let me start turning the BPM down, and you can hear the pitch is getting lower, which means it's pulsating slowlier and slower and slower. According to my calculations, 300 BPM would give us the lowest 20 hertz. And you can see under that, we start to hear each pulsating beat or kick. This simulates a square wave, which means that voltage goes in and then it just goes down, like totally stops sending voltage for a while, then sends voltage again, then stops sending voltage, then sends voltage again, and stops sending voltage, and like that. It works like that. That is a square waveform, and each one of these would be like the kick that you're hearing. And yeah, right now it's going like super slow, and we can hear each kick or each pulse. And then if we go back to, let's change the tempo back to 600. And we can hear like a bass synth sound. And so yeah, basically a low frequency oscillator is an oscillator that is super slow. Now, what is applications are in the synth world is like this. I'm going to use this Volca key synth, okay, and I'm gonna show you the different waveforms that we have. In this synth, I have an LFO that is pre-configured to affect either the cutoff of the filter or the pitch. Now I'm going to use it to affect the cutoff, the filter cutoff. And that is a square, that's a square waveform, and you can hear how it turns it on and off. Like that. We can, in this synth, we also have a sawtooth. Sawtooth could be like this or like that. It depends if it's going down or if it's going up. And in this case, I think it's going down, and it sounds like this. We can also have a triangle waveform, which would make it sound like this. We can also change the rate. If we use the square waveform, we can see that this actually goes a little bit into the hearing range. like that. So that's the use of LFOs in the synth world, where you can modulate different parameters using LFOs. And in some sense, like in the vocal keys, it's already pre-configured to affect something. In the modular world, you can, you can patch it to whatever, to affect whatever you want. You can affect the pitch, the cutoff, a delay, or whatever you want it to affect, and whatever you have in your system. Now, in the iPad world, we don't have voltage, but we have MIDI. And natively in AUM, we don't have an LFO to control MIDI, or a emulation of an LFO using MIDI. But thanks to Bram Boss, we have a really cool audio unit plugin that has an LFO. And of course, I'm referring to the Rosetta suite. And the LFO plugin gives you 3 different LFOs. And let me change this back to something like 90 BPM. Alright, cool. So you can see the waveforms here. We have a saw up waveform, and it goes up, and then it turns off, and then it starts going up again and turns off. But it's super slow because it's an LFO. And we can also choose the range for this LFO to operate in. You can go from 0 to 127, because this is the middle world. We only have 127 steps. It's not like the voltage that is like super precise. And in this case, we only have 127 steps. But it's good to control stuff inside AUM or inside the iPad environment. There are other. There's another host, audio unit host, called Ape Matrix, that natively includes some LFOs. So if you want to look into that, I think I have a video where I use the LFOs to control Tornado. But in AUM, we would have to use a third-party LFO emulation thing. Now, one advantage in a world like the iPad is that we can sync this to the tempo. So right now we can use it like this. It goes from 0.01 hertz to 1.60 hertz. So yeah, it's pretty slow. It's like that. It's a little bit more than 1 time per second, so 1.5 time per second, and something like that. And then if we sync it, we can actually, that's 4 times in a beat, and 3 times in a beat, 2 times in a beat, 1 time per beat, 1 time in 2 beats, 1 time in 3 beats, and 1 time in 4 beats. So it gets super slow like this. And so that's one advantage if we use LFOs in the digital world or in the iPad world in AUM, that we can sync it to the tempo. Now I'm going to show you with. I'm going to make this LFO change the cutoff in my biking synth. So this is the cutoff, which I can manually adjust, or I can tell the LFO to change it for me. So to do that, I tap on the Viking synth track name on the MIDI control symbol. Then I go to MIDI sources and make sure that the LFO is one of the sources. And then go into the Viking synth parameters, look for the cutoff, which it has a lot. All these parameters that you see here are parameters that you can control using a MIDI controller or a LFO in this case. So we're going to use the oh, I already set it to channel 10 and CC13. So let me change. This is CC13, but is channel 10. So that is the LFO. Now let's sync it to tempo and let's do it. Now let's choose a different waveform. We have a sine waveform. We have a cosine waveform, which just only changes the phase. The triangle, square, saw up. This one was the one that I had, and then saw down, and sample and hold, which is kind of like a random thing. I'm gonna use that one. Yeah, I'm gonna use that one. Now I'm going to use another LFO, the CC15 one, to change the resonance of the filter. And let's go back to like in synth parameters, and let's find the resonance. That's going to be channel 10, and it's going to be CC15. Now I can change the range in here, or I can change the range in the LFO. I'm going to change it in the LFO. I'm going to leave it like that. Yeah, that's going to be the range for that. Do I want this to be synced? Yes, I do. So it's kind of a rhythmic synth. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, I want to show you how I can also use this in a looper. We can use Lfos to affect this looper. This is Enso looper. It's a super cool looper by Audio Damage, and you can assign. You have many different parameters in this thing, and you can. In this case, what I have assigned to Lfos is the play speed and the reverse. So let me show you what that's like. I'm going to play a piano thing, and so it's looping, and now I'm going to engage the LFOs, and that just happened. So yeah, it's the speed. This is affecting the speed and the reverse, and it's like I don't remember what the settings are, but it's like this. We have everything is synced, tempo synced, and it's to 1/3, 1/4, and 1/8. Now I can also keep overdubbing. Let me change the feedback to 75. And it's really interesting actually. We could also use an LFO to affect the recording speed, and that would make things even crazier and cooler. So that's how I would apply an LFO to my live looping situation, live looping sets. Let me gonna change this back to 1. I'm gonna try to do a short improvisation using all of these things that we have here. I'm also going to use this noise box that I have down here, and I hope I haven't lost any of you. And it's kind of loud. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to turn off the microphone and play for a little while, and I hope you found this information useful, and I'll talk to you in a little while. Thank you very much for coming here and watching this episode of Live Looping at Noon. So I'm going to turn off the microphone. Thank you very much for watching. This was another episode of Live Looping at Noon, which actually happens at 1 p.m. in English, Central Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time in English. I hope you guys found this useful and that you learned something in this broadcast. And yeah, let me take advantage of these broadcasts to advertise my Patreon. Each month, if you subscribe for $1 a month, you can get a PDF with one of these paper toys. That's actually me, and you will get different designs every month, and it's a PDF that you can print and put together this little guy, and you also get a exclusive track. I'm going to be doing like every month I'm going to be making a new track, and then next year in December I'm going to release all of them in an album. And yeah, so they're going to be, these tracks for patrons are going to be exclusive for the members, and they'll be exclusive for 1 year, and then after that I'm going to release them. And yeah, so you get that, and depending on the tier you can get other stuff, so go check that out if you want to support this project. It's patreon.com/PDPlay, which is spelled like this. And if you don't want to support this project using Patreon, you can also check out my Bandcamp and purchase some of the music I've released there. I think it's free to download, or it's like name your price thing. So yeah, you can, if you want to support, you can also purchase it, like whatever you want to pay for that. And also, if you don't like any of that, you can do one-time donation or payment to PayPal. And if you don't like any of those things, if you don't want to support financially, you can also just subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, and that helps a lot too. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you very much.